It's a big antrum, so probably a Graphian follicle. Maybe. This one just has the beginning forms of the antrum coming in. So this is probably secondary, right? This is a close-up of that. But this one, you can see it's tightly in there. So this should probably be either a late primary or early secondary somewhere in there. Or actually, you know what they're saying it's cyst, but it doesn't look like that at all. I don't think this looks anything like that. I don't think they have it labeled correctly. But
Scratch everything you said.
don't scratch everything I said.
So this is primary to secondary.
This should be primary and secondary based on the way the cells are arranged around the oocyte. It's in the middle. You know, there is no antrum. There's beginnings of an antrum forming here. Beginnings of an antrum forming here.
So is this, what is there a way that conducted primary, secondary,
So you have primary follicle, secondary follicle, and then Graphian follicle.
Thank you for not calling me. I would have felt bad for not calling
So
me.
the Graphian follicle has an empty antrum.
Big, well, the antrum is empty. You know, the antrum is this negative space, right? But it's just very large for the Graphian follicle.
But this doesn't have cells within that.
There are cells. They're starting to get spaced apart, kind of like they're starting to get spaced apart here. So I'm saying it's like late primary or late secondary, maybe. So it's starting to form, but it's not clear like this, and definitely not clear that way.
And then the
Graphian follicle.
The Graphian has a completely empty.
It's a nice big antrum, yeah. And now what is this guy? Is this a follicle where the oocyte's missing?
Hey, I came. You never called me.
Possibly.
This is, right?
Although here in the follicle, all those follicular cells kind of look identical, right? Because it's just the same cell. These, it's like the periphery's got these small cells with dark nuclei. Then the cell bodies get real big and the nuclei get bigger. Recording this?
Yes, I am.
And then in the center, the cells start to elongate some, and then there's kind of this empty lumen, these kind of blue things in there.
Oh, shit. 6%. Thanks, bro.
Testis.
Yeah. So this is what part of the testis, me, without using your iPad. The seminiferous tubule, right? So these are the developing spermatocytes and spermatids. And it's different than these, definitely. There's nothing in the middle in terms of one big egg, right? And the cells, it's not the same cell as you go in towards the center. These are all the different stages of mitogenesis. Okay.
So what is the middle part again? The middle, like, space called?
This is just the lumen of the seminiferous tubule.
Oh.
And also that it's a tubule versus this, which is just a cluster of cells, right? This is a big ball of cells. This is a tube with a hole in the middle. You know, it's a tube. A very tortuous, sneaky tube, but a tube nonetheless. This is not a tube. You don't see them in 3D, except for kind of in here they give you a sense of it being a big ball, mass. And there are no testicle models, unfortunately. Two ovaries and no testicle models. It's very sexist. There's all this female stuff and there's very few male things.
You would, because you're studying all the other.
Because I study male reproduction, yeah.
That's why you're
The
like.
unfair slant here to my research focus. Alright, so that's these guys. What's this? It is kind of the fetus, right? Yeah. And it's in this, it looks like it's in an egg. Is it a chicken baby?
Oh, I don't believe so.
No, good, it is human, because this is human anatomy and physiology. So what is this thing around it, this little thin
Amnion.
sac? Amnion, great, with amniotic fluid in there, right? That cushion, so that baby doesn't get knocked into the uterus as mom's jumping around, running, or whatever, falling down the stairs, if you're my mom. Alright, and then what's this thing? It looks like there's this massive umbilical cord, good. And then you know I see the yolk sac, that distinctly. What did Cody just take a picture of? Is it?
What do you think?
Make it horizontal.
Oh, it looks like that. There's a lot of surface area.
There's a lot of surface area.
Is it your...
Small intestine.
No, there's no plica though, no villi, no microvilli. Those cells are flat.
Colon.
We don't have any EMs of colon. So it kind of looks like it has pits, but it doesn't have
Stomach.
gastric pits. Instead, it just has kind of these rugae without gastric pits. So that's gallbladder.
Interesting. Which part of the gallbladder?
Just any part, because it's pretty much the same throughout until you get right to where the stick duct is. But the rest of the tissue, I think, is pretty uniform in that rugae.
So what are all the bumps? Pica?
No, the bumps are rugae. And so the gallbladder, you can kind of just sort of stretch out a little bit, right? So you have those folds. Whereas with a stomach, if you stretch it out, you basically just stretch it out to the point where you just end up with a pit right at the... But this won't have pits because it's gallbladder.
I don't even remember what that was when we started review session on.
These got these little foot extensions, right? The little
The podocyte.
podocytes in the kidney,
The
good.
renal
Good.
corpuscle.
At the renal corpuscle, good. And then these guys are
Babies.
the babies. Good. Oh, they have stuff labeled here. Okay, so here's your amnion, right, that we saw in the other. But now you also see this, the chorion. So that's the thing that's actively invading the uterus to anchor
Oh, okay.
into the tissues so that it doesn't float around anywhere. And this is where placenta will form and also need to anchor in BB. Same thing here. Here again, amnion. I think this is not a freeze fresh, but this is something different because it's all solid and stuff here. But chorion again around the sea urchin looking stuff. Yeah. Oh, I'll just hold on to it. I'll put that on. No problem. Thanks. Here. So what's going on here?
Cell division.
Cell division, yeah. Specifically of what though? Usually cells when they divide don't have two totally separate nuclei.
Twins.
No, no. Just mommy nucleus, daddy nucleus, right? So this is a zygote right after fertilization. So these is a maternal and paternal pronuclei. It's your polar body. So if you had to order these, all these guys, this is all cellular development of an embryo. Just put them in order from first to last.
Okay.
So you've got two half nuclei here, right?
Right.
So that should definitely be first, right?
I don't know what this one is.
That one's, so there, that's last, because this has the most cells, right? It's got so many cells that it's zoomed out so that you just see little dots of the cells. And so now you've got the middle parts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that a yeah or no?
Yeah, so you should be second, right? Because it's just got
Yeah.
two individual cells in there, right? So you went from one cell to two cells. This one has
Five.
probably 8.
8?
Because it's a ball, so there's,
Oh,
they're
yeah.
going into the field and out of the field. So it's like if you double it, 2 would go to 4, 4 would go to 8, 8 would go to 16,
Okay.
and then eventually you get the blastocyst where you have the inner cell mass and then the trophectoderm. So this is last. The blastocyst is what's going to implant in the uteral wall.
Yeah. Can you mind doing a little vascular?
Yeah, do I have any of these left? Is that it?
Nope.
What is this?
The stuff around it?
No,
So-
this whole thing is the same thing as this.
These two guys are the same
Okay.
structure. They're both fertilized zygotes. Here, though, you're seeing these should be cumulus cells that are sort of that when the egg is ovulated, it's not ovulated by itself. It needs to still be protected, and still also have cells that are going to be doing the hormonal secretions around it as it's traveling in the fallopian tube. So these should be the cumulus cells that are ovulated with the oocyte. Right, because as the follicle expands, you have follicular cells most periphery, and then the cluster of follicular cells just around the oocyte become the cumulus cells.
And then this is just a zoomed in version of one of those.
Yeah, this might be the same exact picture. It might just be another embryo at the 2-cell stage. But here you can see kind of the progression of it starting to split up, splitting it more, and then you have really 2 separate cells.
So would you ask us like to put it in order?
If I put like D, A, E, C, and B, I think I missed A in there, and asked you to put them in order, you know, to go through, something like that.
Okay.
I wouldn't ask about signaling molecules or you know, time-wise when they should be happening or anything, but just understanding if they're in order.
What is this?
These are the polar bodies.
Oh, polar bodies?
Yeah. So part of oogenesis is you have, you know, if you have rounds of meiosis, unlike sperm, which one cell splits twice to make 4 cells, it's an unequal division in oogenesis. So you have one cell that becomes the oocyte and everybody else becomes a polar body that really isn't useful for fertilization.
Shouldn't there be 3 though?
No, because the first polar body doesn't divide again.
Oh, okay.
And then the second polar body doesn't divide again. It doesn't divide either.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Does that make sense? So you start out with a cell. You start out with a cell. I can't remember what they're called because I don't do oogenesis. You have the primordial germ cell that divides unequally initially. First round of meiosis, right? Meiosis 1, it divides. You end up with a pre-oocyte, which I can't remember the name for, and then a polar body. The oocyte's going to divide again so that it ends up being haploid, because right now it's diploid, but that diploid polar body doesn't divide. Right? That makes sense now? Yeah?
What are these again? The white and
I'm guessing that they're cumulus cells, but I'm not positive, and you don't need, I won't ask you that.
oh, this one's first.
For a second.
Oh, they're both kind
These two are kind of the
These
same
are
thing.
basically the same, so this would be like A,
One.
and
Okay.
then B, C, D. And there's no
Okay.
Manoa. If there was a Manoa picture, that would be in between, but there isn't a picture of one, unfortunately, I don't think, right?
of, you put the whole kind
So the order would be A, B, C, or
A,
B, A, B.
C.
Well, usually if you do alphabetical order, it is A, B, C. I don't know what letters I'm going to put on them if I put letters on them, but...
It would be A, B, C, D.